Hi chess friends, this is King's Executor covering the Candidates Tournament, which is played in London. And this year of 2003 is especially interesting because the favorite to win this tournament, Magnus Carlsen, is playing. Last time he didn't do it because it was against the conditions of the tournament. But this time he plays and he's the big favorite. The other players are Gelfand, Rajabov, Aronian, Swidler, Kramnik, Ivanchuk and Grischuk. So very strong players, the cream de la cream of the chess grandmaster world. Okay, let's look at the game between Levon Aronian and Magnus Carlsen. Carlsen having the black pieces here. Of course, it's difficult to win with the black pieces on this highest level of chess. This is not an opening we cover on this channel. So this is the setup of the Nimzo Indian. Knight f3 here. The other line, probably the main line, would be knight c3. And here is the Nimzo idea, to take that knight and double white's pawns. And this is one very good system for black, but it's also very theoretically and deeply analyzed, so you have to know a lot if you want to play it against strong opponents. Knight f3 to avoid the knight c3 line maybe, and check. Bishop d2 takes d5, knight c3, castles e3. So black gave away his dark squared bishop, and white can try to use the fact that the remaining bishop for black is worse than the remaining bishop for white, because this bishop is staring at that pawn and has less activity than this bishop. Queen e7 by Carlsen. White wants to castle as soon as possible, but he doesn't want to do it right away, because if he moves that bishop, say bishop e2 here, then black can take on c4 and force white to lose another tempo. So black gains practically a tempo, and now the rook is posed against the queen, which is very uncomfortable for white. And if white would castle here, the thematic c5 break is strong. Of course, the d4 pawn is pinned, so if queen e2 here to get out of the rook's file, then black could have taken on d4 and pressurized the pawn, and after rook to d1. Now the center is kind of solidly blocked. a6 would be possible with b4, b5, b4 with gain of time, and then the bishop can come to b7, for example. So black is lacking, of course, a dark squared bishop, but therefore he's maybe gaining a lot of time in the opening, which compensates him. So let's go back. So white's bishop is kind of the tempo losing piece here in combination with this central tension. So this is why in the game Aronian tried to make as useful moves as possible before touching the bishop. So rook to c1, which makes sense because these pawns are going to be exchanged very with a high probability. So this rook will be on a semi-open file then. Rook d8, queen c2. Why queen c2 looks like a waste of time, but on this position black could have tried knight e4, gaining time on the queen anyway. So it's a grandmaster idea to get out of such forcing moves for good. And now Carlsen plays a6, preparing b5 at the right moment, and kinda after exchanging pawns in the center, kinda controlling this square, so these two pieces cannot come here and pressurize maybe the c7 pawn with the knight. So this is taken out of the menu card here. a3, so white is still trying to make as useful moves as he can find to not lose tempi with the bishop. Knight d7, and now white is kinda lacking useful moves, and this is why the bishop is moved. It could have come to d3 as well. It makes no big difference. Black takes, and white takes again, and now the thematic central break with c5. Bishop back to e2 because b5 could have been played, and it's played now. So again, a retreat before you're forced to do it, because you have to do it anyway, probably, and you don't want to get into tactical trouble. Now white took that pawn, and Carlsen recaptured with the queen. b4, queen e7. Castles, bishop b7, and a4. That offers a pawn and an exchange of queens. Well, the bishop is attacking the remaining pawn on the queen side, so white is hoping to regain that invested pawn. The queens are exchanged, and now Carlsen decided to just liquidate pieces, even giving up the bishop for a knight, because, well, this pawn is dropping because the rook is attacked, the rook has to move, and the pawn is attacked twice already and defended 0 times. So that pawn is going to be liquidated, and then we have only one pawn side here. So exchanging that bishop for a knight on f3 isn't bad, because you play on one side of the board anyway, and the knights are as good, maybe even better than bishops when the play is on one side of the board. Rook b8, the knight takes the pawn back, which white invested beforehand, and now Carlsen centralizes the pieces, and now after some liquidations we see that the game is burning out to a draw, and we see some symmetrical moves here, and there's not much going on. There are no weaknesses. It's absolutely a drawish position, and now in this position both players agreed to a draw. Well, to summarize, all games in the first round are drawn, and I was right about Magnus Carlsen being the favorite of every tournament he's playing, and in this tournament I'm very curious to see what the results are gonna be, so stay tuned for the next videos. I'm very busy the following weeks, so excuse me when I cover the videos days later, and stay tuned for the principal learning of chess, so you understand the principal thinking of the players, and it's not about summarizing the variations for us normal players, it's just to understand the plans and the moves which our idols are doing here. Thank you very much. Please subscribe and comment and like the video if you did. See you next time.